Hello Internet, School Psych Gamer here. I am once again playing Valheim, and I am still searching for the clue to the final boss. So I did a little bit of research and found out that the clue spawns not only inside of the fueling bases, but also just out in the plains in these random kind of Stonehenge-like formations. And so at this point, I've eliminated so many of the fueling bases, and every time it takes, 10, 15 minutes. Sometimes I die, not a lot, but sometimes, and that just adds extra time. Anyway, so at this point, I've decided to stop attacking the bases, and I'm just basically going through the plains, and every now and again I run into a wandering fueling that I have to kill, but other than that, I'm just looking for these Stonehenge formations. And today I just kind of wanted to take some time and plug my profession a little bit as a school psychologist. And the main reason is because anytime I tell others what I do, almost always the response is, "Oh, so you're a school counselor." And while there's definitely some overlap between what school counselors and school psychologists do, there's also some differences that I think are important for people to know. And as always, these deathsquitos are a constant challenge in the plains. Nice. Sometimes I get lucky and get both of them with one swing, and other times it takes a little bit more. At this point, I'm just kind of going around the edge of the island. So in Valheim, everything is kind of on these different islands separated by ocean. And on each island, you may have multiple biomes, so plains and mountains and meadows, forest, etc. And this just happens to be an island that has a fair amount of plain, which is why I've been searching here. But I'm just kind of going around the edge and then looking at my map of where I haven't been yet, and I kind of fill in what's up. And before I get too deep in this, if you want a great website that has a lot of information about school psychology, and also a lot of resources for parents and students, you can check out the website for the National Association of School Psychologists, or NASP, at nasponline.org. I'll have a link in the description. NASP is kind of the organization that creates and promotes standards for school psychologists, and helps provide resources for and advocate for student mental health. So it's a great website with lots of good information if you are interested in the field of school psychology, or if you're interested in different things to help students who may be having different challenges. So school psychologists are highly educated, well-trained professionals who work as members of school teams to help support students' abilities to learn and teachers' ability to teach. And also at this point, as I'm running through the plains, I think this game is so pretty. I know it's a little bit pixelated in some ways, but also I love the movement of the grass and the sky and the trees and the colors. Anyway, I just think this game is pretty. Could do with a few less deathsquitos, though. But school psychologists apply expertise in mental health and learning, and behavior to help kids and adolescents succeed in a variety of ways. So academically and socially, behaviorally, emotionally. And to do all that, we partner with parents and teachers and school administrators and other professionals to try and create supportive learning environments. So on any given day, a school psychologist might be involved in conducting evaluations to identify students that may have dyslexia or ADHD or autism, intellectual disabilities, or other conditions that impact their learning. If you have or had an IEP, which is an individualized education program, you probably have worked with a school psychologist at some point. And right now I've basically cleared most of this island. I think I've explored everything on here. So I'm just going to go back to my portal, and we're going to have to explore another island. Like, we've covered it. This would be, I think, my third island that I have crossed every bit of plane and still not found the clue to the final boss. Crazy. And of course, I'm not going to be able to go through the portal with my black metal, so I'll put that. I'll put that in my boat. I have so much black metal. I have killed so many fuelings and picked up their black metal, and at this point, I just don't think I really have any need for more. But I guess you never know. This is me coming back to my little hub space, and then portaling over to where my main base is. Really what I should do is make my main base that portal hub, but at this point I've already set it up differently, and I don't know. It'd take like 10 minutes to fix it, but that's just not what I'm interested in right now. Ooh, I think I have a health potion that might be done fermenting. Nice. Okay, so I'm just going to do some logistical things. I'm going to take care of my inventory, put stuff away, get my stuff repaired. Again, at this point, the next step is I need to sail to a new island and try and find an island with plain biome. And once again, keep looking for the clue to the final boss. So a school psychologist also might be involved in teams of educators that kind of discuss student needs and explore ways to help students be more successful. So for example, if a parent or a teacher has noticed that a student recently has had a hard time coming to school, or they've appeared sleepy in the mornings, or they're having a hard time during math, they can bring those concerns to a school team, which is made up of teachers and administrators and other professionals like school counselors and school psychs, to discuss what might be going on and explore some ways that we could help support the student. School psychs often also provide individual or small group counseling services to address things like anxiety or depression, grief, social skills, anger management, that type of thing. And at this point, I'm just going to break down my portal so that I can reclaim all the materials. I will get in my boat and find me another island. So in my career, I've worked with students, for example, with anxiety so intense that they felt like they couldn't come to school at all. I've worked with students who were experiencing depression so intensely that they could barely, bring themselves to get out of bed or get dressed. I've worked with students that struggle to make friends or know how to start a conversation with someone in their class. I've also worked with students who are experiencing visual or auditory hallucinations. So depending on the student needs, your day may look very different as a school psychologist, which is one of the things that I really appreciate about it. And so at this point, we're just going to drop sail, and we're going to go wherever the wind takes us until we find a new island that has some plains biome, and we will continue the search for the clue to the final boss. And sometimes this sailing in the water can get a little, sometimes it takes a minute. So maybe now's a good time to talk about training for school psychologists. Most school psychologists have either a master's degree or an educational specialist degree, which is kind of like halfway between a master's and a doctorate. And you do have to, it can vary depending on state, but for the most part, you do need to have a degree in school psychology, either that master's or the educational specialist degree in school psychology. If you have, for example, a master's in psychology or counseling psychology, you may not meet the state requirements to be able to be credentialed as a school psychologist. Again, that does vary by state, but for the most part, the states that I'm aware of, at least, they do require that you have the degree in school psychology specifically, because there is a very specific skill set that you're required to have that other master's degree programs don't necessarily provide that training. Now, some school psychologists do have a doctorate degree, either in school psychology or maybe in like clinical or counseling psychology, most in school psychology. And I believe that's about a quarter of school psychologists that have doctorate degrees. And that does provide you with some additional flexibility to work outside of the school setting if you choose. So if you do have a doctorate in school psychology, that allows you in most states to take the exam to work independently as a licensed psychologist. So most school psychologists work within school settings, so public school, charter school, private school. Some work in hospital or treatment settings, but the vast majority work within schools, and I believe the majority of those are in public schools. And at this point, this fog is being really inconvenient for me because, I'd like to be able to see better where I'm going. And, there's some little encampment. Okay. And I guess we're sailing in between these islands. See, this island on the left is full of forest, and that's not where you find the clue to the final boss. And now I'm probably going to be sailing into the wind. That's not good. So this will be a nice, gentle, slow sail. Also, it looks like night is coming. And sailing at night is not... that's not my favorite. And I feel like I should point out something because I have seen criticism online of school psychologists. And like in all jobs, there are some individuals who don't live up to the ideals of the profession. Some of you maybe have worked with school psychologists that you thought were not helpful or said or did things that you thought were wrong. I've seen criticisms of school counselors and school psychologists for overreacting to something that a student wrote in a journal entry or a writing assignment. And also school counselors or school psychologists may be underreacting, where individuals thought it was very clear that they were in trouble or in crisis or needed support, and they didn't get it. I've also seen criticisms of school counselors or psychologists who contacted Child Protective Services because they suspected abuse or neglect at home, or didn't contact even though there were signs. And real quick, this is about the worst situation that I could be in. I guess the only thing that would be worse would be if I were not rested. But currently I'm sailing at night in very foggy conditions. I'm trying to find another island, and I really just can't see where I'm going. So this is not great. There was some poor decision making on my part here. But at least I have bread. And while I certainly can't speak for every school-based mental health professional, what I can say is that the vast majority that I've worked with truly, truly want to be as supportive as they can for kids. As far as I'm aware, in most states, school psychologists are mandatory reporters, meaning that if they have any reason to suspect that a child is being abused, they are legally and ethically obligated to report it. I'm sure that there have been times where something should have been reported and wasn't, and I can't know, why that happens sometimes, other than to say that, again, the vast majority of school psychs and school counselors that I've worked with are conscientious. We collaborate together, and we try to know what to do in sometimes confusing or difficult circumstances. But certainly we can always do better. And I think being willing to engage in open and constructive dialogue is a way to help all of us be better informed and hopefully do better. For those of you that are considering school psychology as a potential career, be aware it is a career that is in high demand in the United States, and I would suspect across the world as well, although I haven't done, I'm not as up on school psychology in the world as I am in the United States. We do have huge shortages of school-based mental health providers, at least since the end of the Great Recession. There has been incredible demand for school psychologists. I work in the western part of the United States, and in the western part in particular, there's a huge shortage across the United States, but even more so in the western part. So if you are interested in the field of school psychology, it is one that, at least for the last, 13, 14 years or so, it has been in very high demand, and for the most part, you have no difficulties finding a job. Most school psychologists work the same schedule as teachers, so that means summers and holidays are off. It didn't dawn on me until, maybe a year or two ago, that in discussing... Oh, there's something here. Is this land? Oh, I found land. Okay, let's hurry and set up the portal in case anything happens. I hear those nasty giggles in the distance. Oh, not in the distance. Shoot. Oh, 2 stars. Oh, jeez. Oh, what is going on? Okay. This is... Okay, let's get my power up so I can run faster. I guess longer. Okay, I need to get away from these guys. Shoot, and my boat's right there on the land. Okay, I'm going to break this down. Let's see if we can find a better place to set up some walls and a portal. No, still coming. Shoot. Yeah, so this is kind of what... Yeah. So sailing at night in the fog, and suddenly finding ground. Basically what I'm saying is I did it wrong. So if you want to know how to do it, don't do it this way. Oh, skeletons. Nice. Let's, we can take care of some skeletons. Oh, did we lose the fuelings? Are they gone? Let's put up a wall here. Fence. Trying to figure out the best way to do this. I don't know, maybe the best thing to do is just go back to my boat and get out of here. This is kind of a crappy place. I'm not liking this. And it's night, so there's... Yeah. I'm just going to go back and... Anyway, so school psychs, you have your summers and holidays off, which is just something that, I don't know, like I kind of took that for granted. Ah, yes, of course, Desquito. Thank you. Of course, we need... Oh, they're attacking my boat. And it's a berserker. This is... This is great. This is... Yeah, these berserkers by themselves are not too hard, because you can just kite them. They're slow, you use arrows, but these fuelings, they're fast. Oh no. And some of them have fire. And some of them have 2 stars. Oh, jeez. Okay, I just need to... I don't know what to do here. The fog is cleared up. Oh my gosh, did I think I landed right next to a fueling village. I think that's what I just saw. I don't know if this is gonna work. Okay, nice. Is it just the one left? Okay, no, 2. Okay. I can probably take 2. Okay, javelin guy is down. Now what? Okay, I feel like I had like 70 health and he took me down to 0 in one swing? Okay. So... So, I'm going to have to build a new boat, go over there, get my body. Or I could just exit. Oh my gosh. So at this point, what I want to do is just close out of this game, because that, I'm pretty unhappy about that. Look, I had the strongest armor in the game, and I had at least 70 hit points, and it took me out in one swing. That's... Okay, enough about me. Let's see. Maybe this is a good time to upgrade my boat. Maybe now's the time where I need to build a longship. Let's see what materials you need for that. Alright, well, while I'm trying to get a boat so I can sail back to my corpse and get my stuff back, because I don't just want to leave it there, let me talk about some of the attractive aspects of a career in school psychology. So once again, holidays are off, summers are off. This is for most. Most school psychologists have between about an 180-day or 200-day a year contract, meaning you're having probably about 2 months off during the summer, and then you have your spring break and fall break, things like that. Obviously, depending on the school district. So some people feel that the pay is low as a school psychologist, but in my opinion, if you consider that most of us work about 9 months a year compared to other full-time positions, so a school psychologist making the median salary of $78,000 a year for the number of days that most of us work, that's the equivalent of someone earning about $97,000 a year, just under $100,000 a year, if you were working full-time. So, for the number of hours worked, I think school psychologists are compensated fairly well. Now, obviously, in different districts or states, that may not be as great. I know there has recently been some advocacy in Nevada to increase salaries for school psych, and I think that was necessary because I think they were paid far less than they should be. But I think in the majority of places, you'll find that if you consider the number of hours worked, I think it's pretty fair compensation. But if your goal is to make a ton of money or being paid top dollar for your work, I would say in general, education is probably not a great fit for you. But if you're someone that values time and appreciates having time off, time with family, or time to do engage in hobbies or other things, for me, it's a great fit. So for most school psychologists, the work is very meaningful and satisfying, although it can be stressful. As a school psychologist, you're often looked to for expertise in a variety of areas with like educational law, special education law, and procedures, mental health challenges of all kinds. And of course, everything needs to be done right away. So everyone wants their evaluation to be done just as soon as possible. So that is an area where you sometimes have to set expectations. Wow, this longship is fast. I probably should have upgraded a long time ago. Yeah, this is nice. All right, little bit of a silver lining. So I've got like just minimal gear. I'm gonna go over there. I'm gonna find my corpse. I'm gonna get my stuff, and then I'll probably make a portal. It's not nighttime, so, and it's not foggy, so I can actually see where I'm going. That's nice. Note to self, don't sail at night. That was poor planning. Also, as a school psychologist, you do have to work within legally mandated timelines for identifying students with disabilities. And there's never a time where there's nothing that needs to be done. So if you don't have something urgent at the moment, you're probably spending your time making plans or getting ready for something that may came up. And for me, that's a good thing. It's nice to be busy. Sometimes there are periods of time where it seems quite overwhelming. And in my career, essentially what I've done is I've advocated. We have a great team in my district. We have a great team of school psychologists who we can call on each other if one of us is feeling overwhelmed. We can put out a call for help, and our team has been great to support each other that way. Sometimes one gets really busy, so you need to ask for help, and then another side can kind of fill in and help out. So that's been great for me, and I haven't had to do too much. One thing in the field of school psychology, and probably in other fields as well, but one thing that's, I kind of want to say that it's kind of popular, is this idea that, and I guess this applies to education for sure, is the idea that there's more work than can be completed in the workday and within normal hours. And so it's kind of, in a way, popular to be like, oh yeah, I have to do all this stuff outside of work hours. I have to, write reports or whatever after school because there's just not enough time during the day to do it. And I don't think that's because people want to do that. I think they would definitely prefer not, but also I think sometimes school psychologists accept that as just a given, and teachers as well. Like, it's just a given that I'm going to have to stay 3 or 4 hours after contract time and do this work. Whereas for me, just by reaching out and saying when I need help, when I need additional resources, I've reached out to my supervisors or my fellow school psychs and said, hey, I need some help. Oh, this is shallower than I thought. And with that, for the most part, I've been able to do most of my career and just work within those work hours rather than spending all this unpaid time doing things. If you routinely have to work beyond those contract hours, then I would argue your district doesn't have enough staff or resources or whatever it is, and you need to advocate for that, because I just don't think it's fair for people to be working outside of work hours and doing stuff that they're not getting paid for. I don't know. Maybe that's an outlier position. Maybe that's un-American. I don't know, but that's just how I see it. Oh, so it looks like I parked my little boat right on the shore of a fueling outpost. That was great. So again, one of the reasons why you may not want to sail at night and in the fog is because you might park in literally the worst place ever. But they didn't break my boat. That's nice. So I think I'm just going to park my longship here off the coast a little bit so that they don't destroy it if they come over while I'm getting my stuff. So early on, I mentioned some differences between school psychologists and school counselors, and I thought I'd just expand on that a little bit. So in general, school counselors have master's degrees, while school psychologists usually have specialist or doctorate degrees. Both professions can work with struggling kids, although the level of training and expertise often is a little bit higher among school psychologists. School counselors, for example, generally are not able to conduct evaluations to identify dyslexia or ADHD. They may not be as well trained in supporting kids with significant behavioral concerns. And I'm saying things, they may not, maybe, different training programs are different. Different counselors have different skills in different areas. So I certainly am not trying to in any way minimize their skills. There are some differences. So school counselors, especially at the middle and high school level, generally have more training and resources to help kids with college and post-high school planning, where school psychologists really aren't involved in that area. In general, there are more school counselors than school psychologists. So while your school likely has a school psychologist assigned, they may serve multiple schools, where most schools, at least in the area where I am, most schools have access to a school counselor that's there at the school full time. And I guess that's kind of the main reason why I think it's important to point out some of the differences between school psychs and school counselors. There are a lot more school counselors in the United States, so a little over 100,000 school counselors compared to about 35,000 school psychologists. And when it comes to supporting student mental and behavioral health, the funding, at least in my state, almost always goes towards more school counselors. And school psychologists are often left out of the discussion. I don't know if that's the case everywhere, but I do know that's kind of something that I hear fairly frequently, is that, again, when people think about, well, we need to support student mental health, usually the next step is, great, we need more school counselors. And while we absolutely do need school counselors, and they are essential, and I am not, again, in any way trying to minimize what they do, but there are other school-based mental health providers like school psychologists and school social workers, and we do have different training and different expertise, and I just think it's important for people to be aware that there are multiple professions, and each of them have important roles for supporting kids. And having said all this, I have worked with amazing school psychologists and school counselors who have sought out training that goes beyond their kind of formal academic instruction and have been able to broaden their roles and competencies to better support students. So, in other words, not all school counselors or school psychs are created equal. They each have their talents, their areas of interest, and different approaches about how to better support students. So while there are differences within the professions, there are also definitely differences within individuals. At this point, I'm going to break down my carve, my little boat here. And, whoops, I forgot that I put stuff in there. I'm going to break this down and recover the materials in case I ever need to build one in the future. Oh, too much. You know what? This black metal, yeah, I have lots of that. Okay, let's get my nice new longship. Let's move this a little bit further away from the fueling camp because they make me nervous. And I know they didn't even break my other ship. Wow, I think am I stuck on the sand? Let's get the sails. There we go. Now we're moving. So I'm going to move this just a little bit further away because at this point I'm feeling a little, dying takes something out of you. It's not great. And so at this point I think I'll just park my boat a little bit further down. And And I think I'm just going to portal home and take a little break. So once again, I've done a little bit of searching for the clue to the final boss. I have not found it, but at least I've set up a base in the plains on a new island, so now I can spend time running around through the plains and see if I can find that clue. I hope this isn't completely boring for you guys. Look, okay, yeah. See, every time you die, your skills go down a little bit, so that's frustrating. Well, anyway, if you have any questions about school psychology, nasponline.org is a great resource, or feel free to post any questions below. I definitely will respond to those. It's something that I feel passionately about. Like, supporting kids is important to me, and the reality is, in the United States, we need more school-based mental health professionals because kids are dealing with a lot, and kids that receive that. So of the students that struggle with different kinds of mental health or behavioral difficulties, if they receive help and support, or formal help and support, the vast majority of them receive that support in schools. And so for me, it's just important that we have sufficient mental health and behavioral health providers to be able to support students. So this is me, School Psych Gamer, saying school psychology is a rewarding career field that is in demand and allows you to have a good work-life balance. See you next time.